Look around this garden. It looks peaceful, productive, alive. But there's a war being fought here that most people never notice, and if we lose it, your grocery store looks very different in a generation. I'm talking about pollinators. Not the concept, the actual creatures. Bees, butterflies, moths, beetles, flies, bats, even hummingbirds. Right now, billions of them are doing something absolutely essential for every living thing on this planet, including you. Let's talk about what they actually do, why we can't replace them, and what happens to us if they disappear. Here's the simple version. Flowering plants reproduce by moving pollen from one flower to another. Most of them can't do that themselves. They need a delivery system. Animal pollinators are that delivery system. A bee lands on a flower to collect nectar and pollen, food for her colony. While she's there, pollen sticks to her fuzzy body. She flies to the next flower, and some of that pollen transfers. The plant gets fertilized. A fruit forms. A seed develops. Butterflies do the same thing, moving flower to flower, often traveling farther than bees, which actually helps genetic diversity across plant populations. Hummingbirds are specialists. They've co-evolved with long, tubular red flowers that almost no other pollinator can access. Some plants literally depend on hummingbirds and nothing else. At night, the shift changes. Moths take over, particularly sphinx moths, which hover like tiny helicopters at pale, heavily fragrant flowers that bloom specifically after dark. And bats. In desert and tropical regions, bats are the primary pollinators for agave, saguaro cactus, and dozens of fruit trees. This isn't one system. It's dozens of specialized relationships that evolved over millions of years. And they're all working, every single day, mostly invisible to us. Now let's talk food. Because this is where it gets personal. 1 out of every 3 bites you eat exists because a pollinator visited a flower. That's not a metaphor, that's a measurement. Apples. Gone. Almonds, completely dependent on honeybees. Gone. Blueberries, strawberries, cherries, peaches, pears. Gone. Cucumbers, squash, pumpkins, melons. Gone. Tomatoes, peppers, eggplant. Largely gone. Coffee and chocolate, both pollinator-dependent. Gone. What's left? Grains. Wheat, rice, corn, those are wind-pollinated and would survive. So we're looking at a diet of bread, rice, and pasta. Nutritionally poor, monotonous, and for billions of people, simply not enough. Almonds alone require commercial beekeepers to truck hundreds of thousands of hives to California every February just to make the harvest happen. Every almond you've ever eaten was made possible by a managed bee colony and a beekeeper doing that work. That system is already under severe stress. And understand this, native bee populations are not managed. They're wild. When they crash, there's no backup system. No truck full of replacement hives. They're just gone. First, habitat loss. A monoculture corn or soy field stretching to the horizon is a food desert for pollinators. No diversity, nothing blooming, no shelter. Suburban lawns aren't much better. When we eliminate flowering plant diversity, we eliminate the food supply pollinators need year-round. Second, pesticides, especially a class called neonicotinoids. These chemicals are absorbed into every part of a treated plant, including the pollen and nectar. Bees exposed to sublethal doses lose their ability to navigate. They literally can't find their way back to the hive. Immune systems collapse. And these chemicals persist in soil for years after application. Third, parasites and disease. The varroa mite has devastated honeybee populations globally. It weakens individual bees, transmits viruses, and can collapse entire colonies. Native bees face their own pathogens, made worse when they're already stressed from habitat loss and pesticide exposure. Fourth, invasive species. Non-native plants outcompete the native wildflowers that local pollinators depend on. The result is landscapes that look green and alive but are biological deserts for the insects that evolved there. These threats don't operate separately. They stack. A bee weakened by pesticides is more vulnerable to mites. A habitat-deprived butterfly population has no buffer against a bad season. It compounds. Every native flowering plant you put in the ground is a pollinator feeding station. Every patch of bare soil you leave is a potential nesting site for ground-nesting native bees, which make up the majority of bee species. Every leaf pile you don't bag and throw away is overwintering habitat for insects that keep this system running. Plant a succession of blooms from early spring through fall so there's always something available. Add night blooming plants, evening primrose, moonflower, 4 o'clocks, for the moths and bats doing the night shift. Reduce or eliminate pesticide use, especially during flowering. Let some weeds, clover, dandelion, stay. They're not eyesores to a bee. They're groceries. And stop thinking about this as helping nature. This is maintenance of a system you personally depend on to eat. The distinction matters because it changes how seriously we take it. Pollinators don't ask for much. Diverse flowers. Clean water. Somewhere to nest. A break from the chemicals. In exchange, they give us most of the color, flavor, and nutritional variety in our diet. They hold ecosystems together from the ground up. They've been doing it for millions of years without any help from us. The least we can do is stop making it harder for them. If you want to dig into specific pollinator-friendly plants for your region, or talk about building a real habitat garden, drop it in the comments. And if this opened your eyes a little, share it. The more people who understand this, the better off all of us are.